Welcome back to Self-Serving Skillet, everyone. This month we are doing spice blends, things that you probably have most of the things for, but buy the blend anyway. And today we're doing chili powder. Now, you may, unless you have a lot of peppers on hand, a lot of dried peppers, you probably don't have most of the things to make this one, but they are relatively inexpensive. If you go to the right place, you can get a big old bag of chilies for not that expensive, maybe $5, something like that. Look and see if you have like a Mexican food mart somewhere in your area. That's where they're gonna be. The store that I usually shop at, just down the street, 10-minute walk, they want about $8 for a very little bag, which is nice that they're so close in a pinch, but with a little bit of forethought, I can get the cost of this chili way, way down. There are also kind of more ways to make chili than I probably even know about, and we are going to start with the most controversial of topics, which is beans. Now that's what's bubbling away behind me over here, but this was about a pound of dried beans, and they're going to about double in size. So I'm going to end up with, water weight isn't necessarily bean weight, but this was about 2 cups of beans. I'm probably gonna end up with about 4 or 5 cups of beans. This bag was about $2. So you can really save a lot of money by doing it yourself. You're gonna want to put these beans onto a flat surface and sift through them and run them through your fingers. And what we're looking for are stones. We're looking for stones and debris from the fields where the beans are grown, and really anything. We can take kind of broken beans out of there if we want, kind of weird beans. But what we are looking for is any debris that was missed by the machinery that these are all harvested by. And there are many ways to make the beans. Some people will soak them overnight. Some people will boil them for a few minutes and put them off to the side for an hour. Dump the water, then come back and boil them. These are all tricks to remove the big old molecule that's kind of indigestible and causes a lot of gas in some people that gives beans its musical fruit. And I've done the soaking method with I didn't really notice a difference in the gas that I was experiencing, but I did do the boil for 2 minutes and leave off to the side method this time, so I guess I'll report back next time I decide to use beans on the show. Other things that I'm going to use here. Now, I'm going to start with my meat, and you might notice that this is not ground beef. This is actually ground pork, and if you're going to go that route, you want to buy something that is just labeled ground pork. Read the ingredients, please. But if you don't read the ingredients, at least make sure that it just says ground pork. If you go for something that says ground sausage or breakfast sausage or something like that, it's already going to be seasoned. It's going to inform your flavor profile, and this all kind of becomes a little bit useless then. The reason I'm using it is that, at least in my area, I can get the same amount and the same quality of ground pork for a little bit less expensive than ground beef. If you're gonna use ground beef, use 80-20 ground beef, that's ground chuck, because it has a lot of fat content. A lot of people will use the lean ground beef, the ground sirloin, and that just doesn't have a lot of flavor. There are tricks that we can use to blend that fat back in, make your bowl a little more mouth-filling, all right? And then it doesn't matter that much because it's going to fill you up a little bit more, and it's going to taste a lot better. So you'll need less. This ground pork is about the same fat content. So I'm gonna get this into a pan. I'm going to brown it. I'm gonna render out a little bit of the fat. You don't need to cook this all the way. we're just going to get a little browning on it. We're going to render out a little bit of fat because this is going to simmer for a little while with all of our other ingredients. Now, I like to take the meat out. I don't want it to overcook as much. You can feel free to leave the meat in if this would otherwise discourage you from making it. Leave everything in. You could throw absolutely everything with very little prep into a crock pot and you will get a similar result. If all you want is the flavors, that's fine. I'm telling you how I make it. You make it how you want to make it, all right? But I want that fat in that pan to saute out onions. And onions also have a big old molecule that is a sugar that we can't taste. The molecule is too big, but if we break it down in the pan, it splits. And all of a sudden, we taste it and we get sweet onions, all right? That sugar, that sweetness that we taste in the onions is always there. We just have to bring it out. We have to break it down. So these need about 8 minutes in the pan, and I'm going to follow that with a little garlic. Now, garlic is an aromatic. It doesn't need a lot of cooking time, so we want to add it right at the end, right when I'm adding, these are poblano peppers, and these are the only fresh peppers that I'm using. And I do that for really one reason that has several different facets. Dried peppers tend to have a more even flavor and heat profile than fresh peppers. So I'm picking a fresh pepper with a flavor I like that heat isn't going to be all over the place. These are fairly mild. I'm gonna get those all in there and covered in fat before I add my chili powder. Clear the table. My standard sort of thought process for how to deal with peppers, how to do chili or do something that calls for some dried peppers. If I'm making a taco meat or something like that, I want about 50% mild peppers, 30 to 40% medium peppers, and about 10% very hot peppers. And you can adjust that according to your spice tolerance. I think I have a pretty medium spice tolerance. If you have less of one, maybe do 5% hot. Or if you like it very hot, I might do even thirds, which I've done before. But you want that entire profile, all right? You want the pepper taste, not just the heat. And I also like to have my medium peppers be a little smoky. Now, these are chipotles, all right? Chipotle is just a smoked and dried jalapeno. This is an ancho. Ancho is just dried poblano, that fresh pepper that I had before. So some of these things have different names according to how they're prepared and how they're presented to you. My mild pepper is almost always ancho. My medium pepper tends to vary, right? These are guajillo chilies, which are very nice. Also have a little bit of a smoky flavor. This, as I found out on the Duck Egg Show, which is exclusive content that I grant to my Patreon subscribers and now YouTube members. Every month you get an episode that sort of ties the month together. I figured out that this is ground New Mexico chili, so I think I'm gonna try to use that up today. But this, the Chipotle, I remember a couple days ago when I was going to the store for this episode, I opened the container that I had these in, right? I opened the container just to make sure everything smelled good and it was fresh before I went to the store. And I also poured out some oregano in addition. I left and I went to the store and I went outside and I breathed in the fresh air and I came back and I went, oh man, I've been thinking about chili so much that the whole place just smells like chili. But no, it was this smoked, it was the chipotle. That's what I want in the chili. And then the supporting role was the the oregano. My hot peppers are almost always chili de arbol. And that's only because 2 or 3 years ago now, in the turkey pozole episode, after my first Thanksgiving, so this is like 4 years ago by now, I bought a huge bag for $5, $6. And this is what I have left from that. So I'm working through it. So I'm just gonna get these into my grinder. I'm not gonna worry about seeds because I can always pick the seeds out later. I'm not gonna be careless, right? I'll save this seed bulb, but I'm gonna go in with all of my Ancho, paying attention to how much is in there so that I can keep my ratios where I need. And then that's also lets me maybe repeat this in the future. I went in with maybe 5 of these guys here, 2 Chipotles because I wanted to use the rest of this New Mexico chili powder, and 2 Arbols. Now we're gonna grind this up, and this is going to be the seasoning blend for our chili. When I get my ingredients in that pan and covered in oil and covered in chili powder, there's a lot of browning going on here. These onions were in for a long time. That pork was in, that pork got a little bit brown, so I'm going in with the tomatoes, and I'm using whole tomatoes. I almost exclusively use whole tomatoes because whole tomatoes, it's a quality marker, and whole tomatoes they can't can whole tomatoes and market them unless they don't have any blemishes on them. Now, this is a great time to grab a can of beer and insert it directly into the cook. Story time. When I was a teenager, when I was in high school, there was this coffee shop across the street that I would always go and hang out at. One day I went in there and the owner said, "Hey man, I made a pot of chili. Do you want some?" And I went, "Yeah, I want a pot of chili." Not a pot of chili, a bowl of chili, but I'd like to try your pot of chili. And so he served me a bowl and I was eating it and it was really good. And he said to me, "There's a cup of the coffee of the day in there." And I was eating it, and to be honest, I couldn't taste it at all. But I lied to him and I said, "Oh man, that really, adds a kick." And he goes, "Really? Because I can't taste it." I had kind of the same thought the first time that I had a chili with a beer base. I really think that it's an excuse to crack a beer while you're making some food and go, "Oh no, the chili needs it, and I only needed a couple ounces, so the rest can go in me." But you do you, it's not gonna hurt. I'd just rather have the beer. So after I have my chili powder in there, after I have everything sort of tossed in this chili powder and the chili powder begins to bloom in that oil, now is a good time to add back in your meat. Now, if you'll recall, in the past few episodes and beyond even that, I've been talking about how mustard is an emulsifier. It will binds to both water and oil. So what can we use that for? Well, we bought the fattier cut of meat because it's more delicious. And to get that fat, all of the fat that wasn't used to, fry our onions and do our peppers and all of these things, any fat that's still sticking around, we can use mustard powder to bind that to the rest of our ingredients. So putting your meat in, that's a perfect time to get some mustard powder on top and mix that in. And if you live anywhere else, I don't care. The answer is maybe. And chili has sort of become one of these things that's very regional. For example, in Cincinnati, they make it with cinnamon as a primary spice ingredient, and they serve it over spaghetti. As much as I'd like to say that Star Wars episodes 4 through 6 are the only ones that count, the prequels still are somebody else's Star Wars. They're just not my Star Wars. So that's what I think about chili. Now I'm actually going to deposit everything from my pan into the pot with my beans because it has more area to swim around in and simmer and all of these things. And I'm gonna leave all of the bean liquid in there. Now I did salt these so that the salt can kind of get into the bean, but it's nothing drastic. That's why we haven't salted anything yet, because we had to combine. And the chili needs liquid anyway. It needs liquid to simmer in. So if you're doing something like canned beans, you don't have to throw that liquid out. It's full flavor. All it is proteins and carbohydrates that are kind of leaching out from the bean, which serves to thicken your soup as well. Use everything that you can. Use everything that you can. I'm not going to demonize you for trying to be a good person and then it just doesn't work out. And I'm just gonna let this simmer for a little while. There's no magic number. You just want all of the flavors to be able to get to know one another, and you want your liquid to be able to get to the level that you want it to be at. For me, since everything that I did was cooked already, we're not actually cooking, we're just marrying ingredients. For me, that was about an hour. And during that hour, during whatever time frame you're doing, it's very important to keep stirring because you're dealing with a lot of solids in your pot. So if you don't stir, if you don't have it low enough, and if you don't stir, you're gonna burn the stuff at the bottom of your pot. New day, last night, this chili is so good that my girlfriend and I almost finished the entire pot. I had to put a bowl in reserve to film today for the taste test, but that's okay because it was like $20 for the whole pot. It was relatively inexpensive for the aforementioned reasons. So, and it's better on day 2. Beans in general, I think, are better on day 2 and 3. There are people who disagree with me, who don't like the all of the thickening bean water, but I love it. All right, so I just topped this with a little manchego cheese. Manchego is a Spanish sheep smoked cheese, because that's what I had. Right? You don't have to do this, and I also put some chives on top. Okay, day 2. It's so nice. It has such a nice peppery flavor. You can taste the chilies, you can taste the different levels, because we have a lot of ancho in there, because we have a lot of poblano in there. You get a huge pepper flavor without a lot of heat, and then those chipotles add the smokiness, a nice sort of smoky, sweet heat, and then the arbols bring in the punch, right? But that's just right at the end. In fact, I asked my girlfriend after she had had a bowl, was that too spicy for you? And she said, yeah, a little bit, but then she ate a whole other bowl right after. So because we were little piggies last night, I had intended on this lasting 3 days, but instead it was just one very gluttonous day. But that's all right, because sometimes you just can't help yourself. Now, we didn't put beer in. I have my beer on the side, and I think that's infinitely more pleasurable. You can feel free to disagree with me. So good. So we have one sort of unfinished piece of business here, which I don't usually do, but I have leftover chili powder, so I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate this for you. But I don't usually mix everything together because I like to be able to tinker at the stovetop. So I have about a 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit more, 1/3 of a cup of chili powder in reserve. And to that, I'm gonna add maybe about a big spoon of smoked paprika, maybe about a big spoon of garlic powder, probably a big spoon of granulated onion, and then maybe just a big spoon of everything, of cumin. Maybe I want to toast this cumin first. And this will allow you then to take this powder as a finished product. Notice that I'm not adding salt even now. Take this powder as a finished product and be able to put this truly in your drawer as a homemade version of chili powder that anyone can take out of the drawer and sprinkle on a thing and go, oh man, that's a great chili powder. You don't need to doctor it at the stove, because we use this on fries, on a baked potato. We use this on burgers sometimes. So this is just kind of what I want when I want these flavors. Done. Get in the kitchen and make yourself something amazing. Here are your bloopers. Infamy. And I don't need, oh geez. The beans say hi. My hot peppers are almost always chili double. Where's my microphone? Where'd my microphone go? Is it picking me up? Hello? Okay, it's gotta be close.